I think that's one way to put it. But okay, now I do like the two fights on one episode. If there's been anything that has
Okay,
been
but
a
question, and let's keep framing this out because I have a
right.
question for you. So let's just say we do 8 women, we pick 135 or 145. Who's the women's coach?
Oh, that's a good question. 135.
Don't think about wait. Who's the women's coach?
I'm drawing a blank.
Have you heard of a fighter named Gina Carano?
Yes,
Do
that's
you
genius.
think do
That's a
you
good
think
idea.
she would be a draw on Spike TV?
I think that. Well, yeah, I think Gina Carano would. I think a lot of people would watch Spike TV if she was on it.
What if
Got a lot of
Gina
person.
Carano and Chris Cyborg coach together?
Oh, this is a pretty good idea. I like it.
Yeah,
I
this is
like
an
it.
idea.
That's a pretty good idea.
And this is what we do. The UFC has Strikeforce for at least one more year. This is the contract thing. The contract runs till February or March of 2012. I think it's February. Lorenzo Fertitta said there are extensions that could be added on. I don't expect those extensions to go through. I even
Yeah.
half expect the contract to be renegotiated. I think the Strikeforce name is going to go bye-bye. And I don't mean that as an insult to any of the Strikeforce employees or
Right.
Scott
They're
Coker or
getting eaten by a
anyone.
bigger fish. I mean, it's the
Yeah,
nature of the
I think
marketplace.
the writing's on the wall with that. But why not take this great talent pool that they have? All these women who have contracts, they need to be satisfied. Zuffa's already said that they'll honor the contracts, and I really respect that as a business entity, them saying that they'll do that. I want them to do that now. Why don't we have the girls go on, 8 girls? I bet you we could make stars out of all 8 of them. I really think the hardcore audience wants to know more about these women. I
No, that
think
would
there's an
be.
interest there, and I think it could definitely spill into the mainstream audience that also watches Spike TV and the UFC, the casual fans. So we could potentially get 8 stars out of this. We crown a tough champion. Maybe she fights the winner of whatever division she's in. She fights the Strikeforce champion. If Dana's so concerned about having women fight in the UFC, then have them go back to Strikeforce. In the interim until they have Strikeforce, you know, um, now it's UFC presents Strikeforce essentially. Get more used to the idea of women being UFC fighters, and then eventually, when they break the brand, they spill the women over in like they're going to spill on the men. That's
I
my
think
idea.
that's no. I think that's a very interesting idea because although while the UFC has said they're not interested in women's MMA in the short term, and I think right now it's probably the best business decision for them because you got to think they had 5 divisions. They acquired the WEC last December. That gave them 2 more divisions. There's only so many dance cards, and I understand that because they've got to be very cognizant about not diluting their product. You don't want to water it down. But I've been interested to see what they'll do with women's MMA in terms of if it keeps getting bigger and bigger, because it's on Bellator. And I think if history has shown anything, is that the UFC will only ignore a marketable commodity that can be monetized for so long, and then they'll jump in and pick it up. I mean, I thought what they did with Kimbo Slice was brilliant, and what they did with the lightweights and kind of building them up, and then all of a sudden, when you look at a couple years later after the lightweights coming in, that's by far the hottest division. So I think that would be very interesting in terms of watchability. Yes, because that's the thing about Top is someone like me or you is going to watch it every week because we love MMA, but when the ratings start to go down, and you have a good lineup. You got Brock Lesnar, Junior Dos Santos. That's a heavyweight matchup. It's tough to keep people's attention. So a women's show or some element in that, especially with the timeline as it is now, they can still fight in Strikeforce or wherever. You don't have to dilute
Yeah,
the
it would
brand.
work, right? Because
Yeah,
I don't think it'll work for this season because it looks like they've already made their plans. That those plans were already made before they purchased Strikeforce and knew
right.
they were acquiring all these women's contracts. And I'm pretty sure that they've decided on at least who they want their 2 male coaches to be. And the key is to have female coaches in there. I would love to see what the difference is between a female fighter learning the sport as opposed to a male fighter. I would love to see that. And then I would love to see them interact together. You and I know of many female male fighter couples.
Yeah, no, that's
They
a
share a
fascinating thing.
certain they go home together and they live the fighter lifestyle together.
Yeah.
We've got the 145 Strike Force champion, her husband fights in Strike Force as well, Mr. and Mrs. Cyborg. So I would love to see that. I would love to see some of the chemistry between the women and the men in the house. They just have to set up guidelines with all of them. If they
Right.
break the guidelines, that they'd have to exit the house. I mean, why can't the women stay downstairs and the men sleep upstairs? And then there's some communal areas where, they interact together.
It would
I think,
certainly, it would certainly break, because if there's one recurring theme in Tough that's gotten a little old, and I can't say I blame the guys for it, is just like a bunch of testosterone in the house. Kind of like it was funny the first like few episodes, but now it seems like the guys they've gotten on, I mean, they're definitely a little bit more professional, but it's just a bunch of dudes in the house, and it's kind of like I think they've shifted the focus on more of the training and some of that as opposed to the hijinks. But no, that would be, you know what, that would be a gutsy move, but to the brave go the spoils, Loretta Hunt. So I definitely think that's a very interesting idea. Well, listen, folks, thanks so much for tuning in to MMA Talking Heads, our second episode. I'm Jason Probst with Loretta Hunt. If you want to find us or drop us an email or general online interaction, you can find us at MMAtalkingheads.com. Check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/MMA Talkingheads. We're also on Twitter and Facebook at MMA Talking Heads. And we will see you next time around on
MMA Talking Heads.
You Nailed It. See you later, folks.
Bye bye.